I'm Vin.
I'm Sori.
That's Booby.
And Jelpy and Ghosty. Chip.
Gardenian.
Okay.
Tell the world I'm sorry.
Shout out to the big homie, My Insanity. I don't know what the communication issue was on that one. People are probably like, oh, these people always have some issue. But anyway, we are doing your songs now, buddy. Thanks for being patient. So this is the first one that he or she, My Insanity, I'm not sure, asked for. This one is Gardenian.
Tell the world I'm sorry.
I know, it sounds so sad.
There's a...
Go do.
Look, if you're a patron, and especially if you're in the $75 tier...
Don't say the email address out loud. I have emailed you. I have put a message for you on Patreon where you can email me because I don't want to get that loaded with a bunch of messages. I'm going to shoot another video, and if you're on the $75 tier or the $100 tier, you're going to get a private email address where you can email us directly. So if something is getting missed, you're able to, like, contact us and say it, like, because sometimes you send the message on Patreon and there's like some, I'm not sure what it is. I think that they're not perfected in their
their messaging system is not very.
I can't see a stream of messages from the same person. It doesn't work like that. It's like one message and then one message. It's just a mess.
Right.
So anyway, so if you have something to say to us, that email address is the one you're going to use.
It's not if you have something to say. It's if you're $75 or $100 and we missed your date.
Right. That's
send us that. Right. So it's not.
If you want to chat with me, just send me a private message on Patreon. Yeah, regular
chat is there, but we want to make sure that we're up to date on the specific songs that we owe you. So email, that super secret email address is what that is for. Okay. For timely topical political commentary, or if your day is just going too well and you just feel like getting angry and upset, then check us out, Middle America with Vin and Sori, where you can meet the single most infuriating.
You loved it that they said that.
Well, they didn't say it. My buddy Adar said it. It's one of the favorite. One of the most favorite things.
Hey, guess what? On the Pain of Salvation video, the last one that we did, the drummer said that he'd like to invite us to one of his shows if he ever comes to when they come to North America if we're interested. I was like, what?
If we're interested, yeah. I mean,
I know. The kids were like, Mom, what are you doing? I'm like, I'm just really excited.
We called it Album of the Year. Anyway, tell the world I'm sorry, Gardenian, from the album Soul Burner. Woo, I like that title.
I know.
Soul Burner.
Woo.
All right, let's go.
Go.
Your head, relax for a while, think it over. All the vicious circles I'm trembling in are going further down. The last word you ever spoke still echoed in my head. The world step back a minute or two to think it over. All of this is circles I'm trembling in. It's going further down. Tell the world I'm sorry for blowing it all away. Tell the world I'm sorry that I'm out of your way.
I love the album cover. I loved the sound of it. I liked the energy of it. I felt it in my soul. Lyrically, if I was to take a stab at what they're talking about, it probably seems pretty cut and dry to you, but it sounds, I don't know, maybe a relationship didn't go very well, just the world in general, things didn't go well with people around him, and he's just at the end of himself. And so he has no hope, but at the same time, he wants hope. He wants a cure. He wants happiness. So, but then when he says, "Tell the world I'm sorry for blowing it all away," that reminded me of like these mass shooters that just go out and just. But then I'm like, maybe he just means like blowing it away, like blowing it off, like.
Well, it starts off with, it seems like he's got some homicidal ideation there at the beginning. Mm-hmm. I want to mess up everything you've ever loved. I want to lose my head, go for the bat and crush your head. Relax for a while, think it over. It was a really interesting, to this day, I don't really know if what this guy said was right, but I was at the hospital in DBT, which is dialectical behavioral therapy, because I had an incident while I was in the hospital and my arm was all wrapped up. But so I had went to town on my arm. It was pretty terrible. It was pretty bad. They almost had to admit me to surgery. There was like debate as to whether or not, whatever. And my mom went crazy. She's talking lawsuit. Da 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 da.
Yeah.
So anyway, they wrapped me up, gave me my shots or whatever, and And then they forced me to go to DBT because DBT was optional for everybody. But then they, so I was in DBT and there was this big dude. I'm talking like 6'4", 250 type of guy. And I thought I was bad. Like he had like permanently disfigured his body with that stuff. And so I'm sitting there, and I only went once. My doctor showed up the next day, and I was like, Doc, I can't go back there, because it was just like everybody had been doing that, and it was just like, ugh. I couldn't, we were like mega high risk even in the hospital, but there was just too much. There was too many of them there, and like people were like, Maine. This guy was like Maine, like literally, like he couldn't use his arm. And so I'm sitting there, and it's like ironic because the guy that was doing DBT for us was an actual Navy SEAL. Like he was
really?
Yeah, he was actually the guy. Anyway, but he was yeah. So I don't really know, like to this day, if what he said to this guy was even the right thing. But he basically said, because after you do that, it's not like, and I'm not trying to like trivialize anybody's thing, but there's some people that kind of like do the thing because it's emo. I'm gonna have a very hard time at the gym today, but do it emo and surface level just enough. Like this particular group was like, I was the only one that didn't have to go into surgery, and I was borderline having to go into surgery. Like these were like real serious actors with this stuff. So I thank God that I had the doctor that I had, because she got me out of there, because it was a horrible thing to behold. I mean, it really, really was. But this guy...
Oh gosh, I can't imagine being the parents.
So this guy that was... Well, it wasn't kids. I was the youngest one there. These are grown, like, people. I was, like, 16, 17 at the time. But the people these are grown people here. These are... Oh. Yeah, it wasn't kids like me. I was the youngest one there. Ooh. But, and this... So anyway, the guy that was running the DBT, he was my favorite one. Yeah. But he was...
Well, what did he say? You're killing me.
He's a weird dude. Like, this one time we were all sitting there and we were talking about, like, violence and like, how to channel violence and stuff like that, because all of us were pretty violent people. That was one thing I will say we all had in common in that class, was, like, everybody was a mega violent person. Was it
split male to female ratio?
Nope, it was all dudes. There's two. It was two. It was one Asian woman, and then there was... But the rest of us was all dudes. But yeah, it was two females. It was mostly dudes. And he was talking about violence, and he was talking about how when he was in Grenada, he was one of... I mean, you don't know how significant Grenada is to SEAL history, but it's pretty significant. And there was basically... So they had their whatever, and there were these guys that were kidnapping these girls and assaulting them. So his basically the guy that he reported to said, hey, that guy is over there in the next, whatever. And so they just broke off and they killed that dude. They killed that guy's whole crew.
Wait. They were also like in the military? The people that were just kidnapping these women? Nope. Or this is just some random people from there?
These were people, because there was a conflict between us and what was going on over there. They were just basically kidnapping these girls or whatever, because that wasn't the issue. The issue was, the whole Noriega thing and everything. And they just broke off and found that dude and blitzed their whole crew and went back to work. Like, it was 20 minutes. He's like, 20 minutes, he says. And he used that as like, there's a good way to channel your violence and a bad way to channel it. Anyway, so the guy that's got his arm all tore up.
I see what you're saying. Where?
Well, at the time, I was like, I'm just like looking around, because like we were in like serious trouble.
Yeah.
Everybody, these were not like, oh, I'm doing it for attention. And again, even if you're doing it for attention, I'm not saying it's not valid. It's absolutely valid. Right. But these are like serious people who had, we had a couple military guys. Like, dudes were like coming from Afghanistan. We hadn't even gone into Iraq yet. These dudes were coming from Afghanistan. And so, like, one of my roommates was like, the guy was like literally crazy, like insane. Like, you know me, I'm generally not afraid of anybody, but like, I stayed up until they transferred that guy out of my room because that guy was out of his freaking mind.
Really?
Oh, it was terrible. So,
wow.
So he's sitting there, and so this guy's got his arms like completely wrecked, and then a lot of people don't realize this, but when you let go that deep and do that like to yourself, where it's gonna be with you for literally the rest of your life, like you feel really bad and ashamed or whatever, and then so the guy who's leading the whole thing goes, well, you're in a lot of pain, and this actually is testimony that you're actually a good person. So we're all looking at the guy, what are you talking about? He's like, well, when a lot of people are in pain, what they do is they lash out onto other people. But you didn't want to do that, you just lashed out against yourself. And it worked for the guy. The guy was like, oh shit, that's true. I'm not that bad of a guy. He's like, my whole life I thought it was this horrible, da-da-da-da. And so I was like, yeah, but I think to myself, and now I'm like, well, maybe this works for our little crew, like, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. But like, I feel like if a person misinterpreted that and it got into the wrong hands, that would be like an encouragement to.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Man,
so
that's,
like
that's messy.
To this day, I don't know. You know.
You're so cute when you're like kind of like confused on something, like because you always like have like this about what you believe, and when there's something that you're kind of like. It's fun to watch your eyes.
Yeah, I really.
Yeah, I see what you're saying. Like,
I don't really know what to do with that play. Like, I was like, but he was really unorthodox. That guy. I learned a lot from him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it helped that other guy.
Well, that guy gave me a ton of direction. You know, once I got out, better or worse, say what you want, but he looked like he helped that guy, for sure. But
felt like a terrible person.
Yeah, I mean, because he had really wrecked his body. He really did.
Oh, it's making me dizzy every time you say that.
Yeah. Oh. But that guy, like, every time I was in the hospital, I was like, man, like, these guys, some of these people are, like, actually, like, legitimately crazy. And I did, like, that guy, the way he told that story, he's like, yeah, we just, he goes, 20 minutes. We took care of it in 20 minutes. I'm like, you're the guy that's helping me not be crazy? Like...
Yeah, I think that's a weird thing to be saying to that type of a room. But at the same time, I see what he's saying. It's not as crazy as what... Well, maybe it's because I'm crazy. I don't think that it's as crazy as you think it's crazy. Because I'm like... he's saying...
Telling a room full of people who've actually attempted to kill themselves.
Yeah, what he's saying...
That story...
No, what he's saying... Crazy. No, what he's saying is, listen, you have these feelings to want to do something. Well, there's some real bad stuff out there. Go put yourself in a situation where you can channel that instead of wrecking your arm. You can wreck the guys that are assaulting all these women.
So the guy that was next to me, right?
Yeah.
And it was cool because he got out like a month after... No, he got out 2 weeks before I got out, and they both set us up in the same apartment. Mm-hmm. So literally the hospital was... I drove you down there. The hospital was in walking distance, right?
Yeah.
My apartment and his apartment were literally like a 48
You and the one that did that to his arm?
No. Was it the other guy? I'm about to tell you why I thought that what he said was crazy.
Oh, okay.
So, I'm going to call him E.
Yep.
E, who was like, that was my guy. You know, like, that was like the first like gay friend I ever had in my life. Mm-hmm. So it's me and E, like we were dogs. Like I was there for like 6 months. Like he was my guy. He'd look out for me, da-da-da-da. He'd explain, because he had been there like so many times. Well, he had gotten released like 9 months earlier to when we met, and he couldn't function outside of the hospital.
Oh.
So what he did was, he took a shotgun, and he walked up and down the street. Across, you know that bridge?
Yeah.
He walked up and down the street with that shotgun so he could get himself recommitted. So my thing is, here's this guy telling this story about how he murked these bad guys, which, okay, they were bad guys. Like, I don't feel sorry for them. There's not like a scintilla of me that feels bad for those people at all. Mm-hmm. Good for them. And, my mindset at the time, if I'd have been there, I'd kill all those dudes myself. You know what I mean? But then I'm, like, looking next to me, and I'm like, wait a second. Like, me and him, he had, like, 3 weeks left. to be there, and he got his date, and I had I'm like, this is the guy that just got committed here because he's walking around with this shotgun.
Well, yeah. Are you
now he hears this story about how
he might go out to be some vigilante, but at the same time, make the wrong judgment call because he legit has.
And the other thing is
that's a problem.
The reason that he was there was because he had a stroke and an aneurysm or whatever, and it's basically at any point his body that could have been the end for him. Like there were 2 times when he passed out, he dropped right in front of me. And they were getting EMTs and all that, and I was crying and all that. Like I thought he was gonna die because when he would pat, he would just. You know, I've seen dead people, so I was like, shit. So that was the other thing. Like his life was always in the balance, so it kind of created this sort of nihilistic, you know. So then you tell somebody, so that whole first verse, So you got the homicidal ideation, and then the blowing the world away, and then I'm sorry and all this. It just brought me back to those days. Wow. I don't really, I don't look back and fondly remember that time, but I don't. It's not traumatic to me either. You know what I mean? Like it was a very transitional time in my life, and it's just. I didn't know what Navy SEALs were, until I moved to Maine, because my big thing was the Ranger bat. That was a big thing because I was watching the History Channel right before I moved up to Maine. I was watching the History Channel in my room 24/7. It was all Ranger bat, World War II and all this, and I'm like, yo, these dudes were like gods to me. I was like, yo, if I ever go in the military, I'm going to Ranger bat. And then when we were moving in, our next door neighbor was a SEAL. And he's like, yeah, I'm a SEAL, I was a SEAL, da da da. And I laughed, because I'm thinking literally like a SEAL. Like a SEAL,
What?
I thought he was like some SeaWorld guy or something like that. Yeah, I had no idea.
That's hard to imagine.
You know how I had no clue. All I knew was Ranger bat. I was like, oh, that's it. I didn't Delta, none of that stuff. I didn't know any of that
That's
shit.
Interesting. Okay, so you laughed?
I laughed.
And what did he say?
Well, it turns out he had been to Grenada, and then he would sit and explain this stuff to me. I was like, whoa, guy.
Wow.
Whoa. I was still Ranger all the way, but I was like, so you guys are like at Ranger level? And of course they think that they're, he laughed at
you.
And I'm like, this freaking guy. And he was smaller than me. And you saw how skinny I was back in the day.
Yeah.
The guy was smaller than me. But he was a bad motherfucker. Him and his wife would spar outside, in the backyard.
Oh, really?
Ooh, yeah, he was 45, and that guy.
That's cute. They would spar together.
Yeah, he was able to do stuff, and I got martial arts background. He was able to do stuff. I was like, no shit, wow. So anyway, that was my introduction. So it was him, and then the guy at the hospital. Both of them were SEALs. I was like, huh, okay, but. It just reminded me of that experience with that guy, and I always thought to myself I loved him. I thought obviously I thought he was great, but at the same time I was like, I feel like this guy is I feel like they made a mistake putting this guy up on this floor. I'd say, yo, Ed, this guy he's weird, bro. Ed loved him though. He absolutely loved him. We all did, because he was so real, and he wasn't doctory, and he wasn't condescending.
That's the thing.
Everybody
he wasn't
else
talking
was
to you
totally condescending.
You're crazy, I can't say anything. He was just saying, hey, look, you got a problem here? This is, you know what I mean? It might have been the worst advice, but at the same time, it was he was, treating them like they were normal. You know what I mean? Maybe sometimes people feel crazy, and they just need somebody to treat them like they're normal.
My conclusion was, this guy is crazy himself.
That's what I was thinking. Back of my head.
You can't go over there and body all those people. It doesn't matter what your justification is. You can't do that to those people and come back and be completely sane. I don't think it's possible. So, but here you are. Now he's, you do that and then you choose to go around and work around a bunch of crazy people. And like I said, we were the problem floor. We were these are real people. You know what I'm saying? So.
Yeah.
One doctor would say, you guys mean it. He would always say that. It was some badge of honor or something.
What?
Yeah, those people were weird, man. They were
That's not
And
right.
then they would threaten to send us to that place, and then sure enough, that place got shut down. The one that we were talking about yesterday. Yeah, place got shut down because it was too crazy. But that's where they would threaten to send us. They're like, look, if you guys don't get better here, your last stop is this place. And then sure enough, when I looked it up, it was already shut down. So it shut down like 4 or 5 years ago. But when I was a kid, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, of course, wow. I wasn't scared of anything as far as like that place. But yeah, this dude just came back from Afghanistan, man. That military stuff just followed me everywhere I went, I guess. It's just one of those things.
Yeah, that's weird.
The world has turned and left me here, stiff and cold. Find hope, find cure, find happiness for my ragged, tortured soul. Tell the world I'm sorry for blowing it all away. Yeah, that's
So you think he does something crazy? Like, that's what you thought that meant? Like...
Well, I don't know if blowing up... Yeah, I mean, it does sound like a manifesto for an active shooter, right? Which, you know, is terrible considering where we are right now in our country, but... And, you know, every time one of those things happen, I don't think this guy here is an active shooter. I just think that, you know, the line between suicidal ideation and homicidal ideation is kind of blurry sometimes. Yes. And I think when you combine it with people feeling emptiness and people feeling like they're not seen.
Yeah.
And when you combine that with a person who is suicidal, and then you combine it with a country that's flooded with weapons, you put all that together in a cocktail, man. That's
a mess. Yeah.
That's a bloody mess, and that's our country right now. So, you know, I think the mental health aspect of like this, you know, the shooter stuff is something that doesn't get talked about. We're so focused on, we got to limit the amount of gun. I was just listening to a discussion where this pro-gun guy was like, look, the majority of these gun deaths are deaths by suicide. Like, he really thought that was an argument. It's like, hello, that's still a gun death.
Yeah.
But he's saying the only time we talk about limiting guns is when there's an active shooter situation where you get a bunch of other people killed. So the argument is, well, most of the people that are dying by guns are people that are doing it to themselves. And of course, if you've never had a family member that has left the earth that way, then people go, oh, okay.
Yeah.
Of course, I have.
Yeah.
And I've also had family members where, you know, I went there and took their gun.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
So, because I was pretty convinced that, and, you know, I don't know what they would or wouldn't have done, and I don't think they do either.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So I don't understand how that's an argument. You know what I'm saying? Unless you've experienced it, and then it's a little bit different. But obviously, this person's in some serious emotional duress. That's obvious, and you know, I can definitely relate to it. And I thank God that, you know, I'm glad I went to that hospital. Like I didn't, you know, I'm glad. You know, because I think it was an important time for me to be there. So, shout out to my doctors and B. That was I'll tell you the guy's name after, and the big homie E. Hopefully he's doing good. What do you give the song?
I'm gonna go with. Well, I actually had a little bit more to say about it. So, like, the first stanza there made me think about a particular relationship that I knew that was kind of crazy like that. But then
really,
yeah, where the wife, the husband felt like his life was at stake even when he would sleep. So that really reminded me of that. But then after that, like, I have felt the weight of the world on your shoulders, and it's crushing you, and faith doesn't feel like it's enough, and then give me the strength for my heart and stuff like that. And then coming to the other side of that, like, I recognize that I still carried my faith even though I felt like my faith was lost.
Right.
So anyway. It's like a 9.9, probably even a 10 for me. But I don't think it's a good song if it like encourages somebody to do something crazy. So if it's encouraging you to do something terrible, then I'm giving it a 1. But other than that, it's a 9.9.
It's a 9.4 for me. There you are. Don't hurt anyone.
No.
Okay. And get help.
Yes.
Then out.
Sorry out.
Gone.